Hospital reporters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order, welcome to Panwo TV. Right, well, I'm going to have to do yet another reply video to Sargon of Akkad. And I know some of you are getting a bit fed up with those, but he's done it again. He made a little video, just a short video, about the speech made earlier today by President Trump about the need to create a space force, a sixth branch of the US military. So I'm just going to go through this news story that this Sargon is going to review. It's from Russia Today, and I'll give you my little comments along the way. Okay.
Break out the God Emperor Trump memes because we're getting unironic space marines.
Yeah, it's true. It is unironic. And there will be memes about this. In fact, I'm going to show you some of them in a minute, and some of them are quite good. Yes, old Trumpy has announced there is going to be a space force. Now, there's several different ways of interpreting this. I'm just going to go through Sargon's video, and we'll deal with those as each of those issues as they come along.
Let's watch this little report by Russia Today and see what's in store for us.
It's just that it's just like a report from Russia Today in New York, I believe.
USA already has the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, and there's the U.S. Air Force. But Donald Trump says that there's one potential conflict zone that's been too long neglected.
It hasn't been long neglected. This is something that's been talked about for a very, very long time.
Very importantly, I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to establish a space force as the sixth branch of the armed forces.
Now, this was actually suggested quite a long time ago, several times over the years. This is obviously a current staple of sci-fi. All right, science fiction has been talking about this for a very, very long time. Now, in the modern era, it can be traced back to the 2000 documents, Strategies, Forces and Resources by Project for a New American Century, which is odd because President Trump doesn't have any connection to the neoconservatives, doesn't have any connection to PNAC. His administration used to be free from the kind of neoconservative ilk that the Bush administration had. If you remember, this has been going into through 9/11 research, but the Bush administration was loaded with these various neoconservative members of PNAC, the Project for the New American Century, which demanded US global dominance, which is another way of saying Israeli global dominance, basically. But Trump has never had any connection with these. But I mean, this goes back to my Russophobia live stream and I did about the Syria live stream I did. He appointed John Bolton his national security advisor, one of the most important figures in the US executive branch, the national security advisor. Bolton was one of these people. He was actually Bush's ambassador to the United Nations, and he was one of these people who were part of this. I don't know if he signed the document. I reviewed the entire document a while ago, but he was a part of it. He was part of that tendency.
A big statement.
Damn straight, that's a big statement, but it's an inevitable one too. The US military...
Can you hear Sargon? I'll just put the sound up a bit. There we go.
Been preparing for this for decades.
Yeah, that's true. It is. They have been.
The military operates under a doctrine called full spectrum dominance. It's to have dominance of every space in which a war can be fought.
Funnily enough, that term, full spectrum dominance, I never heard it before I read the PNAC document. I don't know whether it actually existed before then. I've never heard it in any other context before then. But maybe it's not. Maybe the PNAC document was just copying it. But that's the term they used.
And the space is the next space in which a war will be fought. So the
space is next space. Yes, that's a tautology, Sargon.
The question is, who is going to have dominance of space? Because dominance of space will mean dominance of Earth.
Well, it's pretty obvious. The globalists are seeking dominance of space so they can have dominance of Earth. This is the first thing Sargon said, which leads me to be very, very concerned about his perspective on this particular issue, because he sounds very, very... Well, he's going to say several other things I consider very naive and uncharacteristic of him.
In the same way that dominance in the air meant dominance of the ground. This is important, and let's be honest, who would we rather be dominant in space? China, Russia, or the United States? It's got to be the United States.
Why? Why? You say the United States. Now, if you're talking about Trump's administration, okay, maybe I can understand that. But Trump is the US president. Trump is not the United States. Okay. I actually put a comment on this particular video, which Sargon did. It's on his Thinkery channel. I put here. Personally, I'd feel much safer with Russia dominating space. But as long as Trump is president, if the USA does it, then it's the same thing. That's said only half in jest. But I wonder if you've got to realise, Sargon. Would you be? Just ask yourself: would you be saying this if Hillary Clinton was the US president right now, or would you be? You know, do you really think the world is safer with a globalist, occupied United States controlling everything in space, or would you rather have maybe Russia doing it?
And Donald Trump is doing the smart thing and establishing military dominance of space in advance of the other countries doing the same. And that's assuming that they don't have a lot of stuff that I don't actually already know.
Well, the other countries actually are already trying. I mean, Russia has its own agenda, similar to this. And I'm quite glad, actually. And so does China. China actually has launched the first military satellite with and they carried out the first space weapons test. They actually shot down a satellite. Let's go back a bit, actually.
Countries doing the same. And that's assuming that they don't have a lot of stuff that I don't actually already know about and, you know, that isn't necessarily public knowledge. I'm sure they don't. I have no idea. But
what? You were laughing about this a little while ago. What he's saying is that's assuming they don't have things I don't already know, like we don't already know about. I mean, it's classified technology. That's what Sargon's talking about here. Classified government technology. But I mean, he was laughing at the idea of UFOs a little while ago. If you remember, if you go through the links in the description box, you'll see where I did my video in reply to Sargon on UFOs.
It's an important thing for the US to be dominating in space, because otherwise they're going to lose their dominance on the ground.
A new division.
Well, as long as Trump is... Well, would it be a bad thing if the US lost its dominance on the ground? I mean, the US... I mean, before Trump, US was essentially just simply an arm of the Zionist, globalist, Illuminati, New World Order. And now Trump... It's only now Trump is in that things are turning round. But, I mean, do you think it's always going to be like that? Of course, you don't share my views on the globalist agenda, I know, but it's not... It may not always be like that. I mean, Trump is one man. I know he's a tough man, he's a hard man, and he's a good man, but he is already, as I said in my Russophobia live stream, as I said in my Syria live streams, there's signs that he has met his match.
Of the U.S. military...
This is the reporter on RT.
...dedicated to waging extraterrestrial battles. And...
That's funny, the language he uses. Extraterrestrial battles. Who said anything about extraterrestrial battles? I didn't say that. No, that's what he said. That's funny language. I mean, technically that's true. It is battles outside the Earth, which means extraterrestrial, but let me carry on.
When it comes to finding a name for it, Hollywood is full of inspiration.
Oh.
Service.
All right, he's showing a clip from Starship Troopers, which is a really good movie, actually. But it's... I'll just let him go through that.
Fucking guarantees citizenship.
Yeah.
I love it. Unironic Space Marines.
Now the youth of tomorrow must travel across the stars.
Oh, that's a brilliant movie.
Well, thanks for the...
That's Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers, an absolutely fantastic satirical film. It's actually brilliant.
Copyright claim on this video, Russia Today.
To defend our world.
All right, people, on the ready line. Tiger me! Yeah! Tiger me! Yeah!
Oh, it's brilliant. Brilliant film.
I love everything about this so far. This is the best way to advertise this to me. I don't know how it's helpful for the Kremlin to encourage people to support the US militarizing space, but I'm totally in favor of it now. Thank you very much.
Get down to die! Get on the ready line!
He's just showing scenes from now he's showing scenes from Star Wars: A New Hope, where you have the stormtroopers.
Stormtroopers? Really? Really? The US Army is going to put stormtroopers inspired by the Nazis into space, are they? Is that what's going to happen? That's very nice try there, Russia. Nice fucking try indeed.
Let's see if we can get some new ideas from the streets of New York.
Right, so you literally have nothing to say about this. It's not good or bad, because really it is inevitable. You can't sit there and go, oh, I can't believe Donald Trump would do this. Because I've got no doubt that Russia is trying to do the same thing, and China is trying to do the same thing. Okay, let's hear some uneducated plebeian opinions.
I hope that's ironic, Sargon. Uneducated plebeian opinions. He's getting a bit full of himself, isn't he? But I mean, he's already showing signs of naivety when he says, "Well, let's just who cares as long as it's America." You know? What should the area? The question was, what should the Space Force be called? That's what they're going to ask.
Anything. Trumptonalia.
Call it
Trumptonalia.
Space Corps.
Space Force.
Yeah, call it the Space Force.
Space Force.
US Space Force. Why not call it Starfleet? Beam me up, Scotty.
No, just Space Corps fine. That's fine.
No, that's
Space
boring.
Marines, because that's awesome. And eventually we'll give them power armor, put Donald Trump on a golden throne and lead mankind into a great new age where we conquer the stars.
You don't know the Arthur Sargon. He doesn't know anything about the secret space program. I'll tell you a bit more. I'll talk about that a bit more about that in a minute.
That's what I reckon we should do.
Star Elite Force.
Twitter
Star Elite Force. That's boring.
has gone wild ever since Donald Trump made the announcement.
Twitter always does.
Well, if we didn't know what Twitter was saying, then we wouldn't know what anyone was saying, would we?
Online or even taking a stab at designing the logo. But here's a question. Who exactly will the Space Force...
Right, we got some Twitterati have gone out their way to actually originally to try and design logos for the new Space Force, and I've got to show you them. Hold on a sec. Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on, I'm just going to switch this off for a sec because I've got to show you these. Okay, these are what people on Twitter have been saying should be that they've been designing the logo of the new Space Force. Okay, this is a video called Unironic Space Marines. I'll put a link in the description box to this. Here we go, the Department of the Space Force, United States of America, and there's the logo there. It looks a bit similar to the NORAD one, actually. United States Space Force, that's very neat and sword-like. Well, oh man, this is this is brilliant. It's all Trumpy. United States Space Force, lasers, pew pew pew. Oh, fantastic. All right, I'll just carry on now.
Forces be fighting against, you know.
Look at this third one. Like, yeah.
That's the one I was talking about. Sargon really likes it too. Yeah, he does. That's brilliant. I love the picture.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Up in the great beyond.
It's not enough that we're fighting with everybody that loves us. We're now going to fight in space.
Well, that's an interesting point she raises. You know, it's concerning that war has to spread elsewhere, has to be spread beyond our Earth. There are many implications for this, which Sargon, of course, will not understand and not believe in, because I've already covered his views on UFOs. But this lady here raises an important point, and Sargon is very dismissive of her. Here we go.
Okay, right. First off, we fight with our enemies. They don't generally tend to love us. And this kind of, I can't imagine a kind of more middle-class, confective outrage. She obviously has absolutely nothing to contribute to this, but she opposes Donald Trump. And
That's really unfair. I mean, that's this lady who's just been talking, right? All she said, I mean, she just uttered 2 sentences, and Sargon's got her down as middle class. He's got her down as hating Trump. I mean, what the... You know, really, maybe Sargon needs to take time out from dealing with these SJWs, because it's going to his head and it's driving him. Maybe it's just driving up the wall, and he needs to take time out. You've got to manage your exposure, as Stefan Molyneux says. So he's already prejudged this person, and he's not even listening to the rest of what she has to say. And believe it or not, I think she raises an important point, and I'll come back to that later.
She thinks we should all just get along. What about, like, John Lennon? Didn't he say something about love and peace?
Oh, no, she never said that. He's putting more words in her mouth. You know, he didn't go on about the John Lennon and everything like that. She never mentioned that.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, you know you can't have this.
She hasn't asked for it.
You know that this is a nonsense thing. You know that this is just bullshit.
She hasn't said it, Sargon. She didn't say it.
The reason that you can do this is because of US hegemony.
No, it's not. What do you mean? Do what? What's so good about US hegemony? I mean, if the United States of America is a great nation in itself, and it has the potential to be an even greater one. But it has been subverted, at least it was until Trump took over, by the globalist Illuminati. Of course, you don't believe in that, though, do you?
Because the US keeps itself safe, and by proxy, the rest of the West.
The US does not keep itself safe. The US, the occupation government in the United States has devastated that country. What about 9/11, of course, which was done by 19 hijackers, wasn't it? Eh, Sargon? I know you're going to believe the official story anyway. Oh yes, there's no conspiracies here. It's all, yeah, it's just it's Bin Laden, it's 19 hijackers, yeah. Oh dear. You see, I can't really debate with him if he doesn't understand these things. There's this level that there's like a river, like there's a big gap between us where we can't converse when it comes to things like that.
Okay, you can sit there and go, all you want, but when the rubber meets the road, you fucking need this. And
she never went, what you see, again, you're saying things that you want her to say rather than what she's actually saying.
The US needs to be dominant in space. There's no getting around that.
No, why? I mean, what do you? Well, actually, as long as Trump's in charge, maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe as long as Trump's in charge, we're probably better off than when anyone else is in charge. But the US does not need to be dominant in space. The world is not safer if the US is dominant in space. Because basically, the US it won't be the US, actually, the United States of America as the nation in control. It will be the globalists. It will be the Illuminati. It will be the New World Order.
Alternatives are just unthinkable.
Unless they're clearing up like the space junk that's like in the orbit, probably.
The space junk in orbit. That's right. There's lots of rubbish up there. Actually, it's been dropped by careless astronauts over the years, and old satellites that are broken down and things like that. And there's actually talk about space actually being out of bounds until all this stuff, until the orbit of all these little bits and pieces have decayed, which will take about 200 years. That'll be another excuse for us not to go to Mars or back to the moon. The moon, I'm sure. Remember what Marcus Allen was talking about at Dreaming Sources?
That, but nothing else, like aliens-wise.
Well, she mentions aliens. Hang on, I'll go back a bit.
In the orbit, probably that, but nothing else, like aliens-wise.
What made her say that? This young girl. She said, she's a young girl, only about 14, got an English accent. Maybe a visitor to New York. She mentioned aliens-wise. Why did she say that? They haven't let her continue. They moved on to another interviewee.
First, you got to find, life in outer space.
Trump
First, you've got to find life in outer space. There is life in outer space.
says this won't just
let's
be
go back a
any
bit.
intergalactic.
Life in outer space.
Trump says this won't just be any intergalactic fighting force. It'll be.
It won't be any intergalactic fighting force, no.
Number one.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure he has the resources, but I mean, he's not. Won't be part of the secret space program.
Well, of course he says it's going to be number one. A, it's probably going to be the only one. But B, Trump would say it was number one regardless of what it's going to be like.
Well, it's nice to have a president who is confident. He's strong. He's confident. He believes in himself and he believes in his country. Sargon would understand that.
When it comes to defending America,
Let's go back a bit.
when it comes to defending America, it is not enough to merely have an American presence in space. We must have American dominance in space.
Yeah, American meaning what? Does it mean the United States of America, or does it mean the forces occupying the United States of America? The ones that did 9/11, the ones that faked the moon landings, and the ones running Area 51, the ones who collected the debris of the Roswell incident and all these other crash retrievals of UFOs. You see, America, the word means several different things. And Trump, like I say, Trump can. Sometimes I think he's fighting back, and other times I think he's just been compromised again, like he was over Syria. I'm not sure what exactly is going on here.
So important.
Now,
Well, he's correct, isn't he? I mean, he's not wrong. You do need to have American dominance in space. And this is coming from someone who's not an American, but looks at the alternatives and thinks, well, they look horrific.
Hollywood has taught us anything, it's that Trump is going to have plenty of competitors. Okay, look.
Oh, right. That's well. It's funny that there are symbols and various themes in Hollywood that do make you wonder about this.
Moppin, RT, New York.
What, Darth Putin? Yeah, I'm sure the Americans
Darth
will have
Putin.
competitors, which is why they should establish themselves sooner rather than later, to make sure that the other major nations understand that it is going to be the American hegemony and the liberal way of life.
Oh God! Now he's talking like a page from Project for the New American Century. I mean, he's completely contradicting everything Sargon I'm talking about now. Is contradicting everything he said before during the run-up to the US presidential election. Let me just play that again, because that's straight out of the PNAP document.
Themselves sooner rather than later.
RT,
Let's
New York.
What, Darth Putin? Yeah, I'm sure the Americans will have competitors, which is why they should establish themselves sooner rather than later, to make sure that the other major nations understand
Can
that
you hear
it
him
is
all
going
right?
to be
Hang
the
on.
American hegemony and the liberal way of life that will control the earth. and that's better for everyone. Even
that's again, it's, what do you mean, Sargon? I mean, it's better for everyone, right? Okay, supposing Hillary Clinton runs again in 2020, okay, and she beats Trump, and there's talk about her running again. It wouldn't surprise me. Well, it won't be her; it'll be one of her clones, because the original Hillary Clinton is completely beat out now. Probably she won't live that long, but they'll have a clone of her running against Trump, and she wins.
If you're not a liberal.
Okay, she wins. Okay, and then what? Would you still be saying this? Would you?
That's better for everyone. Even if you're not a liberal, even if you're one of the most hardcore Islamists in the world.
Oh, the ones that Mossad have trained, right, yeah.
Having your own sovereign country in which you can support Sharia law and advocate for the execution of Jews and gays and women who decided that they might want to have a drive a car one day or maybe leave the house on their own.
Yeah, well, you're talking about I think you're talking about Saudi Arabia now, which is one of the greatest friends of the globalist occupied United States. Okay, you know this, Sargon. You know that.
You can do all of these things because you're free to do so in your own nations. But we need a liberal world order in order to have a plural world order. And this is what has to happen to keep that order in place. And it is
right. If Hillary Clinton was president, would it?
Better for everyone if it does remain. So in my opinion, bring on the unironic Space Marines and the unironic God Emperor memes.
Honestly, Sargon that's extremely naive. The idea of weaponizing space has so many problems. I've been onto this before. I've been talking about this before. Let me just play Carol Rosin again and what she said, what she talked about at the 2001 Disclosure press conference, just a few months before 9/11. Have a listen to this.
In 1974, after being a 6th grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, "Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space." And I said, you know, teachers don't stop until June. He said, "No, you have to understand. This is February, and we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians."
Yeah, she's talking about like this dates back to Star Wars, not the film, but Star Wars was the name for the Strategic Defense Initiative, that is space-based weapons to destroy ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads. Both sides tried to develop this during the Cold War, and the Cold War probably ended just in time to prevent that, but of course it's still being developed now. There's this Son of Star Wars thing.
Many enemies, he said, against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system, the first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists.
And that's happened, hasn't it? The Cold War ended, and terrorists took over. No one knew back then, von Braun in 1974, no one had any clue that we would have a terrorist threat to replace the big red menace.
There would be terrorists. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern.
That's right. That's the so-called terrorist supported or terrorist sympathising things like Afghanistan, Syria, North Korea, Libya. Doesn't mention Saudi Arabia or Israel, even though those Saudi Arabia and Israel are the countries which really support and fund and train terrorists. But we don't mention them because they're globalist friends.
Then there would be asteroids, and then he would repeat to me.
Now the asteroid thing hasn't come up much. There was a couple of films. There's one called Deep Impact. There was one called Armageddon, which seemed to stress the asteroid threat. That hasn't come to light, but this next bit is very, very interesting.
Over and over, and the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat. Yeah. Well, at the time, I kind of laughed when he said asteroids, and when he said extraterrestrials, I knew I wasn't going to deal with that subject. And now we hear on the news just today, this week, that they've slid in another enemy. Only this time we're going to protect our satellites. In other words, we have to have some reason to spend these trillions, to waste these dollars on a space-based weapon system.
You see, you can go look this up. It's a very, very famous clip. I won't play any more of it. But basically, the weaponization of space could be the excuse to put weapons in space, to have this Space Marines or the Space Force, this sixth branch of the US military, as Trump calls it. The need for US dominance so we have safety and things like this. What if it's about not so much what's down here, but what's out there? Now, you're familiar with the STS-75 footage, where you see a UFO going along like that, and suddenly it goes like that. You've seen this when it goes like that, and suddenly it goes like that. At the very same moment, something streaks up from the ground. It's almost like something fired from the Earth at that UFO. And someone's worked out exactly where that fired from, and it fired from Central Australia. There was a US-Australian secret base there called Pine Gap. I've seen it. I went past it on a coach. It seemed maybe it came from there. But is this really about attacking extraterrestrials? Is the real reason they want space-based weapons not for protecting the Earth or protecting America with dominance, but it's actually to attack extraterrestrials? Or maybe it's not real extraterrestrials. Maybe this is part of the fake alien invasion, which I've also discussed. There was a possibility that it was going to happen at the 2012 London Olympics. I believe they cancelled that. They aborted that mission. But they might try again. Now, several people have said this is related to disclosure. I don't see any reason to be that hopeful at the moment. I mean, maybe things will change. I'll probably do a live stream. I'll tell you what, if there's an update on this, I'll probably do a live stream because this is so important. So if there's a major development on this issue, expect to see a live stream from me on this. But at the moment, it seems a bit dodgy. We don't know if this is the fighting back Trump or this is the Trump that has been compromised. He seems to be in two minds at the moment. But the idea of missile, I mean, the thing about the missiles is there was that. If you watch my Hawaii live stream, of course, there's every reason to suspect that someone within the secret space program, this is the space program that already has space-based weapons and anti-gravity craft and things like that, or the extraterrestrials themselves, shot down missiles in a possible false flag attack, nuclear attack on Hawaii. So this is far more complicated than it seems, and Sargon, of course, is the last person on Earth who has the mindset to get to grips with this. As I said, I've got a lot of respect for Sargon, for a lot of what he does in his challenges against cultural Marxism. He stands up to feminism, he stands up to the SJWs. He tries to break down what he calls the regressive left, as does Dave Cullen and the others, and fair play to them, they're doing a good job. But he does not get the big picture. He doesn't see things as they actually are from a distance. And he still takes the mainstream line, the false mainstream line, on so many other things. And you can see the other. Look at I'll put links in the description boxes to the various reply videos I've done to Sargon, and I've done about. I think this is the third or fourth now. So I think there'll probably be another video on this subject pretty soon. The way things are going. If not, well, there'll be a reply. I'm going to do a reply to comments video sometime, probably within a week. Okay, because I know there's a lot of comments. A lot of you have commented, and you want to reply, and you're entitled to one, and you'll get one. So, thanks for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.